Anytime you do a major drivetrain overhaul, you're going to be left with a lot of extra parts. Whether it's an old engine that you're replacing or an entire drivetrain, the stuff takes up a lot of space, like old transmissions, transfer cases, front differential, or even small parts like brackets and wiring harnesses. It kind of clutters things up. A lot of people are tempted to load everything up and go to the dump and just get rid of it, or even stick it on Craigslist and make a couple of quick bucks. The problem with that is, well, there's a lot of small parts that are still attached to your old drivetrain that you will need to reuse. And if you get rid of it too soon, it'll come back and bite you. I always tell people, save everything until the project is 100% done and you're running and driving down the road with no issues. Then you can load up and clean out your shop. If you have a higher mileage truck or maybe a vehicle with a blown engine, you'll want to refresh it with a remanufactured engine of the same type. So you'll probably grab a long block. We ordered a 5.3 LS for our K1500, and as you can see, you'll only get the basics like the engine block, cylinder heads, oil pan, valve covers, and balancer. But every accessory required to run the engine is not included when you purchase a long block. Obviously, a small block Chevy and an LS are not the same engine, but the point is this: whenever you're installing a long block, there's a lot of parts you're going to need to reuse. Take the accessory drive, for example. You've got the air conditioning pump, the alternator, the water pump, power steering pump, plus the tensioners, idlers, and all the small brackets needed to make everything line up properly. Then there's a lot of other parts like the starter, exhaust manifold, intake manifold, the fuel injection system, and all the sensors up top. Plus, you've got a flex plate out back, a distributor here, and there's a lot of stuff you need to reuse. Now, we are doing an engine swap, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods, because there's still some stuff we need to transfer over. Like, we already repurposed our motor mounts. There's going to be some sensors we pull out so the factory gauges still work. And then you've got something as simple as this: the vacuum line for the brake booster. We can easily adapt this to work on our 5.3, saving a couple of bucks. When we pulled the powertrain out of Project Red Tide, I also took the time to remove the entire underhood wiring harness, and not a single wire was cut. Now, this is a perfect example of why you want to save the parts until the job is done. Now, the TBI computer obviously will not control an LS engine, and most of the wires in the engine branch of the harness are not going to be reused, but there are some circuits here that we need to keep. Things like power distribution, air conditioning, and the wires that run the gauges up to the instrument cluster. Now, if you're in this situation, you have a lot of work ahead of you, but you'll be thankful that you kept the original wires to work with. You just have to cut this thing apart, pull out the circuits that you want to keep, and put it all back together. But you have the parts to work with, and that's what matters.